and welcome to another episode of Just Scare Us Already, the podcast where we discuss horror movies, both old and new, give our opinion, and try to find movies that will scare us. I'm your host, Cheyenne, with my co-host, Dave.
Hey everyone, happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you don't get a box with a heart in it, just some candy.
If you like what you hear, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe and follow us on our social medias down below. But for now, let's get into it.
Yeah, we had our first thumbs up kitty with the film Companion, although we both felt the film was not actually a horror film. So, with that being said, the horror film genre still is not off to a great start for 2025. Um, so, to celebrate Valentine's Day, moviegoers have the release of the slasher horror comedy Heart Eyes. So, as we continue to dive into the various horror film genres, we will take a look at the genre killer and more specifically the subgenre slasher. So, for this week's episode, we will review the recently released Hard Eyes and review three of our favorite and worst holiday related slasher films. So, we're not going to just do slashers overall. We're going to look
Oof.
at the films that were holiday related. So, with that being said, let's dive into it and see if Heart Eyes gets the first thumbs up kitty for the horror film genre for 2025, or will our hearts be broken with another film that fails to scare us? So, Shy, tell us a little bit about Heart Eyes.
Okay, Heart Eyes was released on February 8th, February 7th of 2025, directed by Josh Rubin, starring Olivia Holt and Mason Goodings. For the past several years, the Heart Eyes Killer, or HEK, has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. HEK has come to Seattle and has his eyes set on Allie and Jay, two rival co-workers at a romantic jewelry company. Currently, it's sitting at an 80% critic score and a 79% audience score, so pretty close together on how people are viewing this movie. What is your opinion on this comedy slasher romance?
Well, I'm going to let you start because I'm dying to see what you thought about it.
I don't know, to be completely honest. I know that sounds like a cop out, but there were aspects of the movie I enjoyed. I love that it was very much like an 80s slasher, sloshy kind of movie, very hokey. The comedy in it started off good, but then would just keep going and get stupid in my opinion. We talked about this before when we did our comedy horror. I'm not a comedy person. I don't prefer comedy movies. I like comedy TV
Mhm.
shows, but not really movies. And I felt like this was sort of why I don't, because every time it would get to a point where I would have laughed, it kept going with the joke, and then I just rolled my eyes.
Mm.
So, and then, well, okay, let's you go ahead and say your opinion too, and then I'll go with more.
All right. Well, what can I say about Hard Eyes? The film works as a slasher horror comedy,
Yeah.
but is it a good slasher horror comedy? That's the question. And in my opinion, it is not. The film never takes itself seriously, which I give them credit for, but the script is horrible and the plot twist is ridiculous.
Oh, so
Um,
stupid.
oh my god, I found myself rolling my eyes the majority of the movie, and I kept saying to myself, "Well, it's supposed to be a comedy. It's supposed to be you're not supposed to take it too seriously." But there
Yeah.
was just so many parts in this movie that I kept shaking my head like, they're not this makes no sense, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, it plays down to the audience and comes across as campy and cliche, and the film felt clumsy as it tried to jump from rom-com to slasher film back to rom-com. It was so awkward, and like you said, the jokes they the director did not know how to land a joke.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I wanted to like it because it starts off decently good. I like the idea of, a romantic comedy turned slasher movie. We've seen that in different things.
Hmm.
You have, I mean, I think that Abigail does great with comedy horror. It lands the jokes, they're all dark jokes. This one was trying to be a horror, or sorry, a comedy romance of
Hmm.
a little meet cute, enemies turn lovers type of storyline, throw in a serial killer. And I'm usually good at telling who the killer is pretty early on in a movie.
Hmm.
And I felt like this movie wanted so badly to not allow audience to figure it out that they made it so stupid and
Yep.
such a convoluted twist that no one, maybe some people, there was one that I kind of got, one twist part, but
Hmm.
most people would not have gotten the ending or the identity of the killer because it was just so left field. It kind of reminded me of Monster Summer, how that killer
Yeah.
also felt
Yeah.
so left field and out of nowhere you get no hints, and it's not like, oh, you just got to be clever. No, they give you no hints. It was stupid. The like you said, the dialogue was really not well done. Every time they would
Hmm.
say something, I would just roll my eyes and say, who talks like this? And then, of course, it has the cliche best friend, hot Latina, which I think is kind of a gross trope at this point. It's kind of like the older, well, it says like it's the older sassy black best friend or the
Right.
sassy gay
Right.
best friend. Now it's like the hot
Oh
Latina
no,
who
you
only cares
didn't.
about sex. Yeah. Oh my God, he's so hot. Like, not insulting her. She was a good actress. All the actors in the movie were good overall. I just think that the script did not do them service and did not allow them to do well
Mm-mm. No,
at all.
no,
So,
and you know, your mom watches a lot of Hallmark films, so
uh-huh.
it was basically, and I've come in and seen some scenes, and this movie basically took everything from a Hallmark movie and just threw the whole slasher concept in there. I
But
thought
I don't think
the
well.
no,
Because I
not at
think that
all.
would do well. If you did a Hallmark movie and threw a killer in, that would be great. I would love that. But it did
Yeah,
both aspects of it poorly.
exactly, exactly. It kept flip flopping to the point where I didn't care for any of the characters.
No.
I hated the mask that the
Oh, I
killer wore.
hated the whole
That was so
thing.
stupid. I'm like, I would have bust out laughing before he killed me. Um, and I've seen dozens of horror comedies, and there have been some that are well thought out. They get the laughs as well as the scares and the jumps. You know, I can point out like Tucker and Dale versus Evil,
So good.
Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead. Those were movies that were funny. The jokes landed, and it still provided some scares, some jumps.
Hmm.
Tucker versus Dale had a lot of gore in it, but it was funny gore. You know, the situations that they found themselves in. But this movie just did not work, not at all.
Yeah. And I will say, I'll give it props. The beginning deaths were good. I was actually really
Mhm.
excited because I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be like a Saw esque movie where we're going to get some creative kills. And
Mhm.
it stopped after three. And then one more, maybe, which was shown in, well, two more, but one more that was shown in the trailer. And then
Mhm.
the last one. So it was like, okay, great. We got five when you have a serial killer coming around, slashing anyone who gets in his way, and you give us five good deaths, and that's about it. I was real excited for just gore after gore after gore
Right.
for it not.
Nah, yeah. I found very little to laugh about in Hard Eyes. The film, it tries to combine two genres but fails miserably to develop a coherent film that delivers on both. Outside of a couple, like you said, inventive kills, I don't see this becoming a Valentine's Day cult classic.
No.
You know, I was shocked. I was shocked as I saw the film on Friday, and at that time, the critics rating was like 84%. And
Mm.
I was just like, what? Like,
I mean, I'm
did
still
they did
shocked with
they see the same
80%.
movie? Yeah, I'm like, did they see the same movie I saw?
Maybe we're too harsh on movies. I don't know, but I thought that there, like I said, maybe it's because I don't like comedy, but I thought Companion was funnier than this one. Companion got better laughs out of me than this movie did.
Mm,
To be
yeah,
honest, because like I said, it would go there, and it would be a joke that I'd be like, okay, I'll laugh. I think the only joke that made me laugh was the Hobbs and Shaw one,
I
where
rolled
she
my
goes
eyes at that
Hobbs
one.
and Shaw, and I think it's because I wasn't looking when they said I was looking at my phone, and I heard Hobbs and Shaw, and I went, huh. I let out a little, huh.
Oh,
Okay, that's funny,
you're
I
one of
guess.
those people that looks at their phone during the movie.
No, you texted me.
Okay.
That's the only reason I glanced at it. Was just not a good movie. So yeah, I glanced at my phone. It was a very empty theater when I saw it. I saw it late Saturday. And
Okay.
surprisingly, it was not a packed theater for the Saturday before Valentine's Day, a horror movie, and at the mall. So,
Yeah.
and I can tell you enough, but I can tell you, I don't think any audience member laughed a single time. The few that were in there, I didn't hear a
No.
single chuckle, except, like I said, maybe the Hobbs and Shaw one, and that probably was just me going a quick, uh-huh. But that was it. And then I almost laughed at another part, and then they kept the joke going. And then I was like, well, now I'm like, now it's just stupid. So I think you can figure out our ratings for this movie. But for me,
Yeah.
it is a thumbs, yeah, it's a thumbs down, Kitty. I would
Oh
say
yeah.
meh, but I don't think it's worth it, even on streaming. Maybe if you're having a, Valentine's Day friend party thing and you just want something to put in the background, sure. But I wouldn't say it's worth it.
Yeah. No, hard eyes made me want to close my eyes. And forget the whole freaking thing. So yeah, for me, it's a resounding thumbs down, Kitty. Not a good
Oh.
movie, not worth it. Um, yeah, they could have left this one unfilmed, just a
Like I said, I think
random script.
if they had reworked it with someone who does romantic comedies, maybe it could have
Mhm.
worked. Because, like I said, I think if you had done a Hallmark movie where it's so cheesy, such a cheesy romance, and then have a killer in it that's wreaking havoc, I think that would be so funny and that could be done so well. And sadly, just this wasn't it.
No.
So hopefully something will come up eventually. We're ready. You'll
So
see as we
far
talk about this our holiday slasher films, because this one's going to be done a little differently. Where I will be talking about my three top, which I will admit was hard to find. And
mhm.
Dave, what will you be talking about?
And I'll be talking about my 3 worst. Because for me, my top 3 would have been pretty predictable, and we've talked about several of them,
I
in
think all of
previous
them.
episodes. Yeah, all of them. So, so I decided to go the opposite route and do my worst 3.
So I'll go ahead and get started, I guess, with
All
my
right.
top. I will say I tried to avoid anything that was Halloween based because I feel like that's a little easy. Most horror movies will set themselves in Halloween. And I tried to do less Christmas ones because we had just done a Christmas episode, and I know I tend to pick Christmas horror movies. But I still chose one, which was Black Christmas from 1974. You can find the streaming on Tubi. It was directed by Bob Clark and starring Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, and John Saxon. During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger who continuously makes obscene calls to the sorority house phone. I like this movie. I had never seen it. I knew it was remade at least once. I didn't know it was remade
Mhm.
twice. But I thought that the original was really good. It's called the mother of horror movies for a reason, honestly. From what I had read online, it had helped to create the tropes of modern, or I shouldn't say modern, but of the later horror slasher movies, including the final girl trope that is then was uh, popularized by the movie Halloween.
Mhm.
So this one having an all female cast for the most part. It has a few men in it, but I thought it was really interesting to see a 70s movie with the women talking crudely, talking about sex, swearing so openly, drink. One was an alcoholic. Um, and just like having this sort of, I guess, freedom that I know was really popular in the 70s for females, but you didn't really see it a lot in movies. You saw the girl who would scream and cry and run and hide in a corner and have to be saved by some man. So I thought that this one was a little bit cool to see, although the main character is a little bit more of a cliche final girl where she is mostly screaming and crying for the most part. But I thought that the kills in it were cool. I love that they never explained the killer. It felt very much like The Strangers. We don't get a backstory. There is one, and it gets explored in one of the remakes, but there's no backstory told in this movie. It's just a creepy guy in the sorority house deciding to murder these women because, from what you can kind of piece together, he was abused by someone in his life, most likely a mother. Uh, so I will say though, although there are slow parts, as most older films I've noticed have, where there's a bit more talking and a bit more just ambiance, I thought that there was actually some good creepy moments in this one. When they first show the killer, and they don't show him, they show his eye.
Mhm.
I got freaked, to be honest. Like it gave me the chills. It was a one shot of his eye in a like the little hinge where the door meets the wall, in that
Mhm.
little opening, you just see his eyeball, and it was freaky. It genuinely creeped me out. So I definitely think that this movie is great. My little dishonorable mention at the moment: both remakes suck. Both remakes are not this movie. One is just horribly done in the early 2000s. And the
Mhm.
other one that's newer, the 2022 one, I believe, completely just doesn't follow this at all. It has some weird frat
Oh,
cult.
yeah.
Yeah, it was so, I don't know what they were trying to do. I couldn't watch it. So but yeah, the original though I think is well worth the watch if you get a chance. Check it out on TV.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that one a couple of times. So yeah, that one is a good one. I agree. The most recent remake, was horrible.
I get it. I get what they were trying to do, but there was no purpose
No,
at
no.
all. But okay.
Yeah,
So what about you? What
they
is your
basically took the
worst, third
story and
worst?
yeah, they
Yeah, and
basically
just
took the
butchered
story
it.
and just went somewhere else with it.
They said let's just do the sorority part, and then the rest of it
Yeah.
different, completely different movie. But what about you? What is your number three worst
So
holiday slasher film?
my number 3 worst is also a remake. It's a remake
Oh.
of the 1981 version of My Bloody Valentine. This one was
Oh.
released in 2009. Stars Jensen Ackles, Jamie King, and Kerr Smith, and it's directed by Patrick Lusser. So basically, it's about this inexperienced miner. He's the son of the owner, and he accidentally causes an explosion in the coal mine that kills 5 men and puts a sixth man into a coma. A year later, on Valentine's Day, the guy wakes up from the coma and decides to start killing people. So he murders 22 people with a pickaxe before the police kill him. So now the son returns because his father dies and he wants to sell the mine. And of course, all of a sudden, now that he's back in town, someone's walking around killing people with a pickaxe, dressed as a coal miner. And of course, people start saying it's the ghost of the guy who killed 22 people, 10 years ago. This movie, it was actually the first horror film or slasher film that was released in 3D. So
Ah,
when
you
you
took my fun fact.
sorry.
You're good. Go ahead.
But yeah, so I brought that up because if you watch it now on
You
streaming or
can tell.
video, yeah, you got things pointed directly into the camera. It's so cheesy, it's ridiculous. Um, but compared to I mean, in the let's not get this twisted. The original wasn't great It, in 1981, it was pretty corny, uh,
Uh-huh.
cheesy, any type of term you could give it. It wasn't a great film, but this one took that and made it even worse. It was just horribly acted. There's one scene, and it's not a spoiler, but there's a point where the sheriff's wife has a gun. He's fighting the killer, and it's like the killer's beating the heck out of him. And I'm saying to myself, why don't you shoot? She's got the gun pointed at him, and she just watches her husband get the heck beat out of him. I'm just like, wow, come on. So anyway, not a good movie, horrible. It makes me cringe every time a film comes out for Valentine's Day, and it's horror related. When I saw the trailer for Hard Eyes, I was like, "Oh boy, here we go again." And I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. So
See,
yeah,
I
but
have
this
hope
one,
for it.
huh?
I
I
feel like
didn't.
Valentine's I said I have hope. I feel like Valentine's Day has the chance to be a good horror thing. I think any holiday has a chance to be a good horror movie, except
Well,
Easter.
I guess, but yeah, this one just didn't work. The original one, it was, they were having a party. The town liked to celebrate Valentine's Day. The miners were having a party. You know, but the remake, it was kind of like they just took it to the extreme. So
Yeah.
and
It was a very
it was
early
just,
2000s movie.
yeah, it was horrible. So, but if you want to watch it, it's on Amazon Prime or Tubi. So have at it.
Well, showing that there are some movies that can use holiday tropes to make a good horror. My second favorite horror slasher for a holiday themed movie that I could find was Thanksgiving from 2023 that can be watched on Netflix currently. It was directed by Eli Roth and starring Nell Verlaque, Patrick Dempsey, and Addison Rae. A year after a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. This movie, I gave it a mat when it came out. I don't know if we actually did an episode on it, but personally, I gave it a mat. But watching it again, it's just such a hokey movie. It's so like B list, which is funny because it has great actors on it. But a B list horror that felt very 80s despite taking place in the current times. Um, I don't know what about it, if it was the clothing, if it was the filming, if it was just the idea of it, but it felt like it should have been set in the 80s,
Hmm.
which maybe made me like it more because it felt like I was watching a nostalgic 80s slasher. But the acting in it is great. The killer just eats the curtains, eats the settings, whatever the phrase is. He is over the top, and I loved it. I thought that that was so perfect for what this movie was and should be. I think it takes itself a little bit too seriously, but if you don't, if you watch it for really what it is, I think it's really entertaining. The kills in it were creative, they were cool. There were some scenes in it that I thought were well done, and and overall, I just thought that the writing of it. I mean, it's Eli Roth. I think that his movies are usually pretty good. I've enjoyed most of them. So this is just another one that I think is a fun one for teens. Obviously, they use, I mean, I don't want to say obviously, but having Addison Rae in it, who's famous from TikTok, definitely brought in a younger crowd. And I think they probably appreciated the hokiness of this whole movie. It's definitely a movie from this times. It's very cringe in certain aspects of it, especially the overacting towards the end of it. But I think it kind of gives it a little bit of a little sweet feeling.
Yeah, I did watch that one, and actually, sadly, that would have been on my worst list as well. I hated that movie.
Really?
I hated that movie. I thought it was so
I think
bad.
if you go into it, but if you go into it with like that mindset of this is a stupid horror movie, it makes it much more enjoyable.
Yeah, nah. I did not like that movie. I thought it was ridiculous.
Well, what
But
did make your list?
Well, my number two is probably a little scene, very what's the word? Little scene, or not very,
Unseen?
yeah, unseen, not a very watched movie. I think a lot of people don't even know this movie exists. But it's 2001's Valentine, starring David Boreanaz and Denise Richards, and directed by Jamie Blanks. So this movie is basically your typical revenge slasher movie. This kid gets rejected at a school dance by this little clique of girls that, of course, all the boys want to date, and he gets brave and asks them all to dance, and they all ridicule him and turn him down. And then the one girl that kind of accepts him. Of course, she's also tormented because she's heavy set. So they're making out, and these bullies catch them, and of course she tries to defend herself by saying the guy attacked her.
Um,
So they torment him, strip him of his clothes, and beat the heck out of him in the middle of the dance. Flash forward to several years later, they're all adults in college, and they're having a party, of course. And now all of a sudden, this mysterious killer wearing a mask that looks like an angel or Cupid. It's kind of hard
mhm.
to tell what they were going for with the mask, but it kind of reminds me of that mask in Happy Death Day, the big
Yeah,
baby face
the
mask.
baby.
But this one is more like a cherub or a angel. This killer appears, and he starts killing them one by one. There's a dumb twist at the end that doesn't work at all. I mean, it was just so ridiculously bad.
Mhm.
They make a lot of references because the guy David Bornaz, or whatever his name is, he played Angel um,
Uh-huh.
on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, and then he had his own series. So there's a couple of nods to that, and
Oh.
yeah. So if you're familiar with those TV shows, you probably get a chuckle out of it. But other than that, though, this movie was a waste of 90 minutes. It was a waste of film. It never should have been made.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And that's why I say I guarantee you, most people you ask them about this movie, they probably be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Um,
Yeah.
it's not on any streaming channel, so
Oh,
you can
wow.
rent it or purchase it on Fandango at home or Amazon
You
Prime.
rented
But it's
it?
yeah,
Oh,
yep,
no.
yeah, exactly. I spent $2.99, and that's about what it's worth. But
If
yeah,
even
it
that.
it was garbage. It was straight garbage. So,
If you're saying this
um,
about your number 2, I can't wait to hear what you say about your number 1.
oh, you're gonna love that one. But yeah, this one, don't waste your time. And you know what the funny thing is too? When you type in the film's name on Rotten
It
Tomatoes,
gives you My
or
Bloody Valentine.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's you literally have to like scroll down
It took
several
me
times until you find
forever
it.
to find it. It took me so long to find it so I could get the posters and trailers and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
also for the fun facts that we're posting, I I don't even remember what I chose. I think I just chose like the first thing I could find on, yeah, it was I think the first thing I could find on like the trivia section on IMDb,
Yep.
because you could not find Valentine. It was all My Bloody Valentine.
Yep. Or Valentine this or Valentine that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
One of the
It's
romances.
Yeah, this movie was lost in the ether
Ether.
world. Yeah.
Well, on a positive note, my number 1, and I know this probably would have been one of your top ones, but I stole it right as soon as we chose to do this because it's my favorite because you showed it to me. But April Fool's Day from 1986, you can find it on Pluto TV. It was directed by Fred Walton and starring Deborah Foreman, Amy Steele, and Ken Olans, where 9 college students staying at a friend's remote Island mansion begin to fall victim to an unseen murderer over the April Fool's Day weekend. But nothing is as it seems. This movie, I think, is such a fun watch. It starts very just classic slasher movie. Nine friends get together. One accidentally causes an accident that disfigures a ferryman. And so then, obviously, when they're getting killed, everyone's mind goes straight to that, to the ferryman. It's very much I Know What You Did Last Summer esque. Uh,
Hmm.
but the twist in this movie, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to give any spoilers because I think everyone should watch this. Not the remake. Let me make that very clear, real quick. Do not watch the remake. Only the 1986 version of this movie is good. But the twist at the end of this movie had me so flabbergasted when I was a kid. I was so shocked and amazed and thought this was such a clever thing. I just thought it was so cool. You don't see a lot of movies like this, a lot of movies with this sort of ending. Um, but it's just so good. I don't want to say too much, but the acting in it is great for 1986. So there's a little bit of overacting every now and then. The
Hmm.
kills are fun. The effects were probably really good for that time. I'm assuming. They look good. The prosthetics look good. I don't know if they were or not. You can tell me.
Yeah, probably. It was 80, so.
When they have some severed heads and stuff, you can tell it's a fake severed head. Yeah. but um but that also does play a little bit in later on, which I thought was very cool, like I said. So make sure that you get to watch it. It's, like I said, it's on Pluto TV. Other than that, you have to rent it on Amazon. But well worth the watch. I think it's a little sneaky to put it on this list, and if you watch it, you'll know why I'm saying that. But I still think it's one of the top ones. Like I said, it was a little hard to find good horror movies that aren't set in Halloween or Christmas. Christmas is easy, Halloween is easy. There was a few others that I tried, like Terror Train set for New Year's,
Mm,
which wasn't horrible. I give it an honorable mention. It was fine. It was a cute movie. It has Jamie Lee Curtis, who always does phenomenal in all of her movies, of course.
mhm.
But other than that, I don't think there was many that I could say revolve a holiday that isn't Christmas or Halloween and was good.
Yeah. No, I did. I remember when we watched it. I had seen it before, so
Of
I was
course.
definitely watching you to see your expression at the end. So, yeah, it's definitely a good watch.
Okay, and what about you? What is your number one? I'm ready for this rant of your worst
Uh,
holiday themed slasher movie.
well, my number one probably will make a lot of people upset because they're crazy.
Be careful what you say.
Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody, but you're crazy. But my number one worst, I put that in bold letters, worst, is 2016's Terrifier. And I will even go as far as say Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. Horrible movie. Horrible movie. It stars Jenna Cannell and David Howard Thornton and is directed by Damien Leon. So, for those of you who haven't watched this movie, it's about a maniac killer named Art the Clown who terrorizes two friends on Halloween and everyone who gets in his way. Terrifier, if you don't know, is based on a character from the horror anthology franchise All Hallows Eve. So it was just meant as a short story, short film, and grew into this series,
Cult.
cult, whatever you want to call it. But I know there are horror movies that take gore to the extreme. This movie takes it beyond the extreme. The kills in this movie are ridiculous. They're so graphic, so gory, and
Hmm.
pointless. The things that this guy does, it just makes no sense. And to me, it's almost a sad state on society. when you when people are entertained by this type of violence. Horror movies are supposed to scare us. And we have movies like the Saw series
Yeah.
and other films where they do a lot of gory stuff. But I don't think any of the Saw movies went this graphic and this gory. You know,
The 3D one.
I don't even think
I don't
that
remember
one
what
was
number
was
that was, but where Lincoln Park is in it and they rip their skin off of the car at the opening.
Yeah, yeah, but again, Terrifier is even worse. It's
Yeah, it
even
is gore.
worse.
It's I will say I disagree with you. I don't think it should
Okay.
be. I just because I think I can understand the audience that would enjoy this. When I was in college, I could see me and my friends having watched this to
Okay.
laugh at the gore and the over the topness of it and drinking and not really paying attention because there's not really a storyline to it. So I can see the audience where I do agree with you is that when we watched Terrifier 3, which we did
Mhm.
not do an episode on because we were so upset with it. I was mostly only because I'm fine with them making these movies. I was a little shocked it made it to theaters,
Mhm.
but I'm fine with these movies being made. It's the same feelings I have towards Rob Zombie movies. You know, they're a little over
Okay.
the top, they're a little bit crude, but I have an issue when parents are taking their children to see this movie. That's where my
Yeah.
issue comes from is the young people watching this movie. This movie, I understand when you're an adult and you're watching these movies and you can, understand like this is a stupid gruesome movie. This is done for, the shock value of it. But when you're a young kid and you're watching this like and not even just gruesomeness, but the unnecessary nudity in it, crude the crudeness of it all basically
Mhm.
it is like especially number three. Oh my god, the scene with Vicky and the shard of glass that I will never not be angry about. Um, that's what bothers me. I cannot, like I said, I can understand the people who watch it. I feel like this is a newer version of like Rob Zombie movies.
Mhm.
And Art the Clown, I understand why he's a cult classic. Art the Clown is a good design. He looks good in terms of a horror movie villain,
Mhm.
but still I don't like the movie. I can understand the audience who likes it. I probably wouldn't have made my top list, but I don't know if it would have made my number one on my worst lists.
Yeah. No,
But I do
I
understand your hate for it.
oh yeah, and I'm not trying to be preachy or be on my soapbox or whatever. Um Cuz I agree with you. When I saw Terrifier 3 in the theaters, there were several children in the theater.
Hmm.
And I literally wanted to smack the hell out of the parents and say, "Why would you bring a child to a movie like this?" I
Yeah,
mean, the just the again, horror movies are about scaring. It's about making you feel on the edge, making you nervous, making you have anxiety. This movie just takes everything and everything in the kitchen sink and just throws it at you. And it's
yeah,
just blood upon blood upon blood. I mean, you and I kind of talked about it. The recent Evil Dead films, Evil Dead the remake and Evil Dead Rises. I honestly feel like those are probably two of the scariest movies recently made.
yeah,
But you could remove all the blood in it, especially at the end of both movies. It's just too
yeah,
much, too much. It's overdone. You don't need all that. But I know they're going for the gore effect and they want to gross people out. It's not needed. The movies themselves are scary.
yeah.
They make the hair on the back of your neck, you know, stand up. It's just creepy. But Terrifier, I can't tell you how many times I started and turned off Terrifier. And the only reason I watched number 2 was because number 3 was coming out. And so I said, "You know what? I'm going to give it a try, give it a
Yeah.
chance. I'll sit through them." and I hated both of them. And when I saw Terrifier 3, I hated it even more. And now I'm like, there's going to be a Terrifier 4, and I'm
Yeah.
cringing. I'm dreading watching that movie. I don't know if I will
We probably
because,
won't. We didn't do number
yeah,
3. It's fine. Well,
because
I'll say
I just,
I did like number 1 when I watched it. I'll
okay.
admit that. I didn't love it. I did not like the nudity. I thought that the unnecessary nudity in it was stupid. But I liked the overall storyline of it because it felt very just like crazy person, gruesome murders. Here's the ending. Once it got to number 2 and 3 and had this weird storyline of the angel demon thing,
Hmm.
uh, that's to me that's not necessary. The movie was fine as just a crazy killer and the story one off movie. Um,
Hmm.
in that aspect of it, I was like, okay, this movie's a fine movie. Like I didn't hate it when I watched it the first time. I didn't love it. I thought that I don't mind gruesome kills. I don't mind blood in movies. I think that they can be
Hmm.
fun at times, especially if you don't take it seriously. But yeah, there are aspects of it, and especially when they go later on, where you know that the people are just trying to one up themselves, and when you start at basically like a 90, you don't have much space to go from there unless you get really gruesome and really gross and really dumb. And honestly, it kind of was the amount of blood in it is also how I felt about the new Saw 10,
Hmm.
on the seesaw part of it. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I did not watch Saw 10.
What is wrong
So
with you? Okay, well, there's a scene in it that
I
has a
was
lot of blood
done.
in
I
it that
was
I thought
done
was
by Saw
unnecessary. Oh,
5.
it's so good. No, but 10 is actually decently good. I actually thought that 10 goes back to where it was before.
Okay.
But there is a scene in it that has like a lot of blood, like a copious amount of blood that I thought was just I was rolling my eyes during that scene. So it was sort of the same idea with this one, and with like you said, Evil Dead, Cabin in the Woods. I need to stop naming movies, so I'm going to put the trailers or the posters up. But
Oh, you
Cabin
don't
in the
have
Woods
to.
has the same scene where the mermaid gets killed, the mermaid thing gets killed, and you just have the shooting of
Boosh,
blood.
boosh, yeah, everywhere.
Abigail when they explode.
Oh yeah, the
I
end of
am
that
getting
one.
tired
Oh,
of this trope of like, here's a lot of blood in a
yeah,
horror movie, and it's like that's unnecessary. You can just give me
gallons
gore.
of it. Gallons of it.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't make any sense. The human
No,
body doesn't have that much blood in it.
we have a good amount, I think.
What is it? Eight pints or something like
I don't
that.
know, to be honest.
But I could beat this to death, but
Yes,
I won't
we've gone on
because
long enough.
I would just end it with saying Terrifier is probably the only horror movie that makes me angry.
Ooh,
It's
okay,
just
interesting.
it festers. It's just like it makes me angry. I just I don't know.
See, that's how I feel about It
If I
Follows.
had a chance to talk to the director, I would tell him
Oh
stop.
gosh.
Please stop making these movies.
Okay, well, Mr. Leon, if you end up watching this episode, DM us.
Come get me.
But
Come on.
anyways, that is our list. We're gonna post them up here. But the top 3 for me, which I would say go watch, and the worst 3 for a day, which I
Don't
would say probably
bother.
don't watch.
Don't bother.
But if you have seen Heart Eyes, go ahead and give us your opinion down below on what you thought of the movie. If you thought that it was a good movie, if you know of any holiday ones that we have not listed that are good, that for some reason just weren't on our radar. And hopefully, we will catch you guys in the next episode where we will be discussing something new. And hopefully, we'll find something that will scare us. Until then,
Hopefully.
we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.